If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then this, the UK Property Market Stat Show, is for you. My name is Chris Watkin, and each week I come to you with this show with a special guest, different guest each week. This week it's Rob Smith. We'll come to Rob in a second. The purpose of this show is to tell you what's happening in the property market right here, right now. For those of you who have not watched the show, a lot of people take a lot of stand from what the Halifax and the Nationwide do with their stats. They're looking at sales that were agreed 2-3 months ago. The Land Registry from sales that were agreed 5, 6, 7, 8 months ago. We're looking at last week. We're looking at house prices. We're looking at the number of instructions. And comparing them to previous weeks and previous years. We're looking at price reductions, we're looking at sales agreed, fall-throughs, and exchanges. And also, as I said, house prices, and also other stuff about the property market. So if you want to know what's happening to the property market, then listen up. This week, I'm joined by Rob Smith, who is boss man of Hunters and Whitegates, who are a huge part of the property franchise group, and he knows his stuff. Thanks for joining me today, Rob.
Thanks very much for the invite again, Chris. It's great to be back.
Well, you did an absolutely fantastic job last time, so I invited you back. And ladies and gentlemen, he's one part crew, about 10 or 11 of them on a rotation, and they're all exceptional. So we're looking at week 23 of 2024, which is Monday, the 3rd of June, all the way through to Sunday, the 9th of June. And we will be comparing week 23 against other week 23s. We will be comparing the year-to-date figure compared to other year-to-date figures going back to 2017. So we can find out what's happening in the property market. We can look at house prices and the deals. So if you want to get an inside track of what's happening in the property market, then buckle up in the next hour. The show is roughly split in two. The first half talks about the UK property market. And then the second half, we go to a town or a city, and we really deep dive and analyze that particular property market, really looking at the different estate agents in that town and letting agents and seeing how well they perform. This week, we're going to the beautiful town of Bury in the Northwest. Now, if you're not from Bury, you might not be interested, but we're going to be using a bit of kit called Insights. And this bit of kit, Insights, is Rightmove Plus on steroids with turbos and lasers and gitterballs with a couple of rockets attached to it. It really is fantastic. So if you're an estate agent and you're having trouble trying to prove that you're worth your fee, or you're losing properties to overvaluing, then this independent data really is absolutely fantastic. I'm not being paid by the firm to talk about the product. They do give the product away to me for free. And it is available to all estate agents. There's a free version, and there's also a paid-for version, which you can use on your own town. More of that later. But anyway, Rob, let's get back to the first part of the show, and let's go look at those Stadaroonies. So as always, ladies and gentlemen, we always start off with the listings. So I will just spend just a couple of seconds looking at the graphs, and then we will go through the numbers with Rob. So in terms of the properties this week, in terms of the number of properties that come on the market, 38,114. Year to date, 814,000, which is 9.1% further on than the 2023 figure of 746,000, and 12.5% further on than the overall 8-year average. Let's just go and just pull those stats up again. The average price of a property that's come onto the market is £460,000. And as I said, here's the graph here, showing the year-to-date figures on a week-by-week basis, comparing it with 23, 19, 17, and 18. The reason we've compared those years, ladies and gentlemen, is that they are more normal years. Rob, what's your thoughts on listings?
It was interesting to see that it's the most instructions that have come on year-to-date for quite a number of years. Definitely shows there's plenty of vendor demand, which is what we've been crying out for the last few years. Obviously, we've had plenty of purchaser buyer demand, but still irrelevant of whether there's an election coming up or there's not, we've got plenty of vendors that want to sell the property. So it has to be a good sign that people want to be moving, which is what we're here for, which is what we're here to help them out to do. So very positive news for me that plenty of people wanted to still sell and move.
Again, just to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of 2008, which was the bad year when everyone dumped their houses on the market, the numbers that we were talking there were in the order of about 60 or 70,000. And to give you an idea, and we will be looking at the number of properties for sale. And again, I know, Rob, you have expressed an opinion on that. Again, we have to keep an eye on the total stock of properties for sale, simply because it's a classic supply and demand. Remembering, ladies and gentlemen, that at this moment in time, since January the 1st, out of all the properties that have left estate agents' books, only 53% of them have you been paid on. The other 47% have been withdrawn and sold. And I know that number's hardly changed in the last 6-8 months, but that number is still shocking, that really you've got basically a red or black chance of selling your home in point of the view of the vendors, but you as estate agents have a red or black chance of being paid on all that hard work you're doing. Anything else on listings before we move on to price reductions, Rob?
No, just good to see it's consistent.
Good stuff. Okay, so price reductions this week. The average price of a property being reduced is 432,000, and there are 23,889 properties that have been reduced, which means that on average, 1 in 6.21 properties that are currently on the market in the UK are being reduced on a month-by-month basis. The average that we've had so far, up in terms of week 23, is normally just over this 1 in 8.8. So we are reducing a lot more properties. That's good news that we are reducing properties, isn't it?
It is. It's possibly for some, it's been a long time coming, but it definitely shows that the majority of agents are awake to what's happening in the marketplace at the moment, and that price is key. Price, whether it's on instruction or whether it's after you've done your initial marketing campaign or plan it, price is still absolutely key to get right, and it's good to see that that's moving forwards.
I mean, definitely, overvaluing is a curse in the industry and always has been since you and I had, in your case, hair and me had dark hair. Anyway, banter aside. But I think the magic thing is this, is that if you do need to just over-egg the pudding slightly, it was interesting last week, we were looking at some estate agents from a town in the north of the country, and there was one agent that quite clearly overvalued, yet got lots of price reductions and got the vast majority of their properties away in terms of exchanges of contracts. So I think overvaluing is a problem, but overvaluing is only a problem if you don't do anything with it. If you work your stock, Rob, you're a good old-fashioned estate agent. You've been in the game an awful long time. It is just good old-fashioned estate agency. Yes, you can't sell it unless you've got it. But if you are going to have to over-egg it slightly, you've got to work it, haven't you?
Yeah. I'm a massive believer in if the vendor's got motivation and the price is right, or you can get a good fee and the price is right, or you get 2 out of 3 things right with the vendor, you take the instruction. As long as you're honest with the vendor on your price. And if you say to the vendor, look, we'll give it a try at this figure, market suggesting it might be a little bit hot, but you know what? I'll try it for you. As long as you're honest and as long as you follow up on your promise that you'll do everything you can to get them the price that they really want, and then you come down and say, right, now we've done that, you got to listen to what I'm saying. As long as you're honest and as long as you're transparent, that's possibly what that agent's doing, is they're saying, I'll try it, but you've got to come down. So that agents in a win-win, clients in a win-win, and therefore your listings are good, your stock retention's good, because you've got a proper plan of marketing. And if it doesn't work, let's review it, and that means price.
You are so right there, Robin. And I think it's important that estate agents is I think sometimes we can get caught in tech and IT and AI, but and we can we were discussing before we switched the cameras on about data and looking at it, but you said to me, it is just good old fashioned, get the house on the market, get some decent photographs, make sure the price is right, get your negs working. It really is, I hate to say it, back to basics, isn't it? And it always is.
Well, when you look at some of the stats we're going to look at in a bit, it is a very consistent traditional marketplace on the vast majority of the sales ratios and everything else, on cancellations, etc. Traditional market. Good, great to be in. Great to be a great estate agent in.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you can see why we get Rob back. He is absolutely damn good value for money. Right, now let's move on and look at gross sales. So if anyone watched week 22, we had the dip. And again, all the doomongers were all running around with their flags saying end of the world. And I said, don't worry, it's the bank holiday. And hey, presto, the white line is back up again. And as Rob, you know, if you compare it with 2023, let's just have a quick look at that. Hold on a second. Here we go. Let's pull that up now. Look, we're comparing ourselves to 2023, 17, 18, and 19. Yeah, look at that. That's really good, isn't it?
It is. It is. Especially, I mentioned it before, and I suppose most people are ignoring it at the moment, is that historically it wouldn't have been like this if there was an election on the horizon. It'd have been a lot slower, but clearly we've got everybody still engaged, which is great.
Well, talking about the election, which I mean, it's not bad. We're 14 minutes in, and it's the first time we've mentioned it. I would actually say that the election has had absolutely no effect whatsoever in this property market. None whatsoever.
Not, which is very unusual compared to historically what we have seen before, Chris.
You see, what you'll tend to find, ladies and gentlemen, with the sales is that we take off, as you can see in the graph here, like a rocket in January, rightly so. And then we have through Jan and through Feb and March, we will have a nice steady level of sales. And then we always have 3 dips, Easter and the 2 bank holidays. And you actually follow those dips, we're all okay. I'm not sure what happened here in 2017. It might have just been an anomaly. But what will happen now, ladies and gentlemen, is this. There will be a general trend downwards. Now, there could be some form of Starmer bounce. I don't know. We have to come up with something than a Boris bounce, because that's what we had in 19.
The Star rebound, yeah.
Got to begin with the letter S, mate. We're good at agents. We're not good at writing rubbish.
No.
But ladies and gentlemen, there will be a general drift down. Again, just to make you aware, this dip here, bank holidays. So bank holidays do have a huge effect on the property market with sales. So just be aware of that. Gross sales year to date, 562,000, which is 10.1% further on than the 2023 figure, and 7.2% further on than the average of 17, 18, or 19. And again, I think we would, again, I'm just chuffed to bits. Obviously, we are nowhere near the 21 and 22 figures. But, you know, considering that 22 was a damn good year, you know, we're not that far off, ladies and gentlemen.
No, they're not. And to be honest with you, Chris, I was looking at this a minute ago. You got to remember, 2022, towards the end of the year, we had that fabulous budget, didn't we?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
everything disappeared off the face of the earth. So do you know what? I'm quite hopeful that the 24 figures will end up being better than 22 figures because of the downfall in Q4, that if we have a bit of a bounce in September and a decent run into the end of the year, we could end up with the second best year we've had for a very long time.
Oh, do you know? I think I've never thought of that. I'm actually going to be pulling up the net sales in a second, but they're on a week by week basis. You've come up with an idea there. Tell you what, mate, later you can see why we've got the Robster on here, because he is just damn good value for money. I've come up with an idea for a graph, which we can probably do later in the year. Thanks, Rob. That's top stuff. Right, the average price of property selling 375. Right, we're going to be here. We go. We're going to be talking about this. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is important. The red line is the average asking price of the properties that are being listed on a week-by-week basis. And the orange line is the asking price of the properties that went sale agreed in that week. The red line is always going to be higher than the orange line because lower priced properties have a higher propensity or a higher chance of selling. Okay, so to give you an idea, properties that are over £2 million in the UK, you have a 1 in 4 chance of selling. Anything over 5 million, you have a 1 in 4 chance of selling. But if anything, say under 250,000, you have a 1 in 6, it's about a 70% chance. So 7 out of 10 chance. You know, you wouldn't think I was a statty, would you? The important thing here, ladies and gentlemen, is the gap. And the gap here is about 22% this week. It should be around 16 or 17. Some of that is overvaluing. Some of that is that there are bigger price properties coming on the market in London at the moment. I've noticed that. I'll come to you in a second, Rob. So this just shows you standalone weeks. And you can see here that the average asking price in week 23 has gone up, and it's the gap between the two. Notice how the turquoise one is just drifting off. So again, just got to be careful with our pricing. And then they said, here's the price, 22.5%. Thoughts on this?
Well, going back to the graph, the light blue, turquoise, whatever color it is, very interesting to see that the prices are virtually identical from a year-on-year perspective, aren't they? So we have a marketplace, which I think that means we've got, once again, a bit of a predictable marketplace, both for buyers and for sellers. So you put your house on the market, you know what you should be getting for it. And if you're a buyer out there, you should be able to know what you're going to buy it for. So I think that stability and that lack of house price growth in that period says to me, if I was a buyer, it's a good time to buy.
What is interesting is that doesn't actually say that prices have remained stagnant, okay? Because that's just what is sold in a standalone week.
Yeah.
Okay. If we're going to be looking at this a little bit later, but my favorite metric at the moment is not tracking average house prices, it's tracking average pound per square foot. And done on a national basis and a regional basis, it matches the land registry 5 or 6 months in advance with a 92% accuracy rate. So you can tell what's going to happen to the land registry 5 or 6 months in advance by tracking the pound per square foot figures. But
yeah, makes sense.
Okay, but what that's telling me there is that yes, house prices have actually risen. However, the properties that are actually more and more that are selling are the lower end. So bigger houses are coming on the market, but they're not selling as much. Okay. It could mean something else, ladies and gentlemen. And if you think I'm talking a load of crock of what's name, please do put the comments in the section, especially if they're trolley or derogatory. We do like those. Bring me down a peg or two. Right. Should we move on to fall-throughs?
Yeah.
So the number of fall-throughs has been slowly rising, as you can see here with the lighter green line. And that could put a lot of people off. You know, we are, as I said, hovering around that 6,000 mark. But what we have to remember is this. Okay, so it's interesting you mentioned the Kwarteng budget at the back end of 22. You see, the graph that we should be taking more relevance on is the percentage of sale agreed. Now, as everyone remembers, Rob said a few minutes ago that the sales agreed are up. So therefore, by definition, fall-through rate, the number of fall-throughs is going to be up. So this is the fall-through rate. And this is the number of fall-throughs in a week compared to the number of sales agreed this week. So the fall-throughs have come from your sales pipeline, and the sales agreed are the ones that have gone into the pipeline. And you can see, and it's the percentage here. So if we go back to 22, we had this here is the budget you mentioned, Rob, where we had fall-through rates of 40%. Ignore the crystal spikes. The numbers are so small that the percentages go off the scale. We were hovering around the 20% mark in early 23. Then the interest rates kicked in, went up to 30%, drifting down. Ignore the spike, and now we're hovering around the 21 or 22% mark. So this week, as I said, it's just 23.49, and guess, ladies and gentlemen, everyone thinks it's 1 in 3 sales that fall through. No, the long-term average is 1 in 4, 24.28. As I said, the number of fall throughs this week, 6,318. Any thoughts on this, Rob?
Again, without wanting to sound boring, it's traditional, it's normal, so you know what's in store for you. I think, as with any good estate agent, they can look at the cancellation rate and they can affect it by making sure that they put the sale together more effectively and with more detail in the first place, be a bit more stringent on the buyer and the seller. So I think that can be influenced, but 1 in 4, if you're less than 1 in 4, you're doing a good job and you probably are putting your sales together properly and you are doing a more thorough chain check, etc. And then the only other thing really is it's all about then remarketing those properties once they do come back on the market, because you've got to do something about it. You can't just whack it straight back on the portals and say to your negotiators, is something else that's come back on the market into a shame. You got to have a plan, because the vendor will want a plan, otherwise they'll go and see somebody else. So making sure that 1 in 4 properties that cancel, you remarket them really effectively and give them a plan to give the vendor confidence to stay with you.
Absolutely bang on. I mean, certainly we're looking for a home at the moment, and there's a few properties that we know sale has fallen through, and the properties come back on the market with deep and crisp snow and no leaves on the trees. Come on, guys, you can wait 2 days. Get your photographer out. Get your phone photographer out. I mean, you know, even if you got these phones here are absolutely amazing, and you can go and edit them and really make the things pop. Come on, guys, there's no excuse whatsoever. Again, as I said, just again, I'm an absolutely massive fan. There's about 4 or 5 suppliers in the UK. I don't know where you stand with reservation agreements, but I'm an absolutely massive fan of reservation agreements with fall through rates in single digits, ladies and gentlemen. Single digit fall through rates.
Yeah.
And
So
go on, sorry.
No, go on, Chris.
And again, this is where you've got to be really careful. You've got to train your valuers to see it as an advantage and not as a thing that gets in the way of getting the listing. And so therefore, anyone that you do choose with that, make sure they give you and your valuers absolute training, guidance and development to make this, because I'll tell you here and now, I'm just a huge fan of them. As I said, there's about 4 or 5 of them in the UK. Do choose wisely. Anything on reservation? Do you have any thoughts? I know you're
absolutely key part of the marketplace. That we have a lot of vendors out there who are looking for speed and security. Price isn't necessarily always the thing that is the hottest priority for them, but speed and security for a lot of them is key. And there are reservation fee or other methods of auction. It has to be a club in everybody's bag. If you haven't got it, somebody else will mention it, and especially on cancellations, that could be the determining factor with you keeping it and somebody else taking it, where the vendor now is saying, I'll take a bit of a price drop, but my next buyer's got to buy it. It's got to go through. Well, there's the opportunity. Indeed. So 100% that every agent should have should have a club in the bag. That's all I'm saying. If you haven't got it, then you can't compete with the ones that have got it. Definitely.
And if you've got any questions about it, ladies and gentlemen, just go and talk to them, because all the things is what happens if there's a fall through in the chain, you're covered. You know, it's just stopping all those pain in the backside vendors or buyers that are pulling out because they won't pay for half a tank of bloody oil, or they won't sort out this or that. You know, buying and selling a home is very emotional. If the sale's been going through for 16, 17 weeks, people tend to throw the rattles out their pram. You'd be amazed what a reservation agreement will stop them throwing the rattle out the pram. Please.
And the other reality of it is which isn't necessarily a benefit to the customer, but for the agent, you're going to get paid on it.
Indeed. Because 1 in 4 sales falling through is not very good. Right. Okay. So net sales, ladies and gentlemen, is the number of properties that have come on, that have sold this week, less the fall throughs, hence your net sales. And we'll have a look at the stats this week, and the number of net sales that we have achieved this week, I'll just pull it aside, is 20,575. You can see from the graph that's on the screen now. That's an uplift from last week of 17,927, which again is what we were expecting because it was a bank holiday week. Again, just have a look. Easter, first bank holiday, second bank holiday, August bank holiday. And again, the number of sales will be drifting down. So if you actually look year to date, we are ahead this week, we are ahead of all the normal years of 22, 17, 18 and 19 and 2023. And we are, obviously the yellow line is 2020, but we're not that far off, Rob, where we were in 21, which was the crazy year, are we?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I think that's really good. So if we just have a look at the cumulative net sales year to date, we're 104.9% above the average of 17, 18 and 19 and 11.2% further on than we are in 2023. And as Rob, you said, if you never know, we might have a Starmer bounce. That could probably give 22 a run for its money, and probably will at this rate, because the number of net sales really just did go belly up in Q4. Thoughts?
I think if we look after us, we've got plenty of property available and there's plenty of instructions coming on. So if we do good quality estate agency work and look after our stock and properly market it and sell it, using your team to sell it as well as everything else, there's every reason why it should be better, because we've got more stock, we've got more availability, we've got more vendor demand.
And this graph just absolutely backs that up. So basically what we've got here is the number of properties units in a estate agent's pipeline. All the white lines here are the end of May. So we're comparing end of May 24 with the end of May for all the other years going back. And again, 465. Now, again, I know some of you are going to say, but Chris, it takes longer to get a sale through. Okay, the going rate at the moment is 18 or 19 weeks. It was 17 or 18, or, it wasn't that far different in 18 or 19, was it, Rob? It's been there. So I know, oh, what about the good old days? Can you remember, Rob, where we used to turn our pipeline over every four times a year, because you used to get the exchange a lot quicker.
I'm used to have to photocopy mortgage applications and send them in the post.
So now, we are turning over our sales pipeline probably every 2.5, 2 3/4. But those days of 12 weeks are gone. What I would say is this: if if you're waiting for the, like Oliver with a little ball saying, please change the industry. Yes, there's wonderful people like Kate Faulkner with the Home Buying and Selling Group who are helping, but fundamentally, you could change your outlook as an estate agent by reservation agreements. I'll keep banging on about them. I'm not going to mention any firms. But another one is this: why aren't you getting the solicitors involved on the instruction? Okay, why are you not getting the forms sorted out? And why are you not having, it scares the hell out of me. And again, this is one of my passions, is having dedicated sales progression. We leave it to our negs, and it's always the last thing that gets done. So I'm genuinely, mate, I'm of the, if you look at outsourced sales progression, and that doesn't mean you have to outsource it. You can actually have a dedicated person in your office, but most one-man, one-woman bands don't. But if you had a dedicated sales progression unit, they're getting sales through in 11 or 12 weeks. And that's whole chains.
I think the big key is picking the right conveyancer as well.
Definitely.
Making sure that you're on board with a conveyancer that's got the same thought process and same aims and ambitions as you have, which is to get your pipeline through quicker. And if they've got a sale ready proposal, then all the better, because it's certainly, from what I've seen and witnessed myself recently, it takes a good 2 weeks off becoming sale ready, getting all that paperwork out, so that as soon as you find your buyer, the contracts can go out because it's done, and you haven't got to sign anything, you haven't got to fill anything in, it's all done. That's a good 2 weeks. And while the buyers, we used to have a sales progression course back in the day, and this lad came up with the analogy, which I still like now, which is, once the buyer's buckled in and you put your foot down, the faster the car drives, the less likely they're going to jump out. So actually, getting sale ready means the buyer is buckled in and you're running fast immediately. You're not waiting for anything for them to see one round the corner next week and say, actually, I've changed my mind.
You are, you're so right. And I love that analogy, and I'm going to borrow it off you. And again, putting it all together with reservation agreements, proper sales progression and upfront stuff, and making sure that you're running the show and not just letting solicitors, because if they've got 100 properties and you're not chasing them, I've done lots of videos, go and check out my YouTube channel, but just ring up saying, where are we? Be a facilitator, not a pain in the backside. Okay, so, 465,000 properties in the estate agents' pipelines. Interestingly, this graph here shows you the balance of properties for sale versus, and this is just like a proportional thing, versus the number of sales in the pipeline. Because again, here is the number of properties for sale. So you're going to say, well, 600. So this is the number of properties that were for sale on the 31st of May for every year. And again, before we switch the cameras on, Rob, you said that's our big number. Well, it is a big number, but it's not 1.4 million like it was in 2008. So I'm not particularly necessarily concerned about that, but we just have to keep a general eye on it.
No, what it does say, Chris, going back to the point I raised earlier on, is you've got the stock to finish a year off well.
Indeed. And again, this is just a nice little graph here. This is the change of stock. So this is the number of properties so we've now split it down by region. What properties were on the market on the 31st of May 2024 versus the number of properties that were for sale on the market on the 31st of May 2023. And there's some, there's obviously some big numbers there. Northern Ireland are lower, but inner London, the Londons are lower. But look at the southwest. Those are big numbers. So again, if you're in the southwest, and what I would say, ladies and gentlemen, is this: all of these graphs are available for you to use in this circumstance. Number one, you could use it within your office, and number two, I don't mind you downloading them at all and using them face to face with vendors at your appointment on your iPad to show that you know what you're talking about. All I do say is this: please do not use them on social media. And the reason that I say that is this: my daytime job is I'm a property economist. I write content for estate agents on their local property markets to make them look really knowledgeable. I know, Rob, I do this. So some of these graphs my clients use on social media to make them look the thought leaders of their town. So I can't have you publishing these on social media if I have a client in your town. So I just ask you nicely not to use them on social, but please do use them. But it just shows you the so these are just raw numbers. And there you go. There's your number of properties that are for sale, and then on top is the sales pipeline numbers as well. So nicely growing. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think it just replicates the comments and the stats that we've been seeing already. Is there's some big opportunities for the remaining 6-7 months of the year.
Good stuff. Here's a couple of extra graphs that some of you geekies out there love to bits, especially those that are ex-countrywide. So just have a look at those. They go over my head, but here's a nice graph showing you the average rent that is being achieved on a year-by-year basis. So again, something for you to look at. And again, you could take this out to your landlords, but again, not on social media, please. I think that's about it, Rob. So any thoughts before we go to the beautiful town of Bury?
Just to reiterate, I know we sound a bit boring going on about it, but it's about stock. It's about stock retention. It's about marketing the property properly. It's about, the phrase we used to use is standing out from the crowd. There's a lot of properties on the market, and vendors need to make sure, and agents need to make sure that the property stands out from the crowd. And if it's not price alone, it's marketing, it's pictures, descriptions, it's videos, it's portal products, it's whatever you want to use, whatever you can afford to use, but tying them all together in a marketing plan when it comes on the market, and if it cancels or if it hasn't sold in 4 to 6 weeks, revisiting it is to me is the answer for the next 4 or 5 months to get more sales in the bag, get more instructions on, because your agent's looking like it's standing out from the crowd and looks a good quality marketeer. And then before you know it, and I daren't say it, Chris, but we'll be starting to look at what the pipeline's going to be for 2025, which will come around soon.
It certainly will. Right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the first half. Now we are going to go to the beautiful town of Bury. We're going to be using a piece of kit called Insights from a firm called 20EA. 20EA do other things, but we're looking specifically at their Insights platform. And like I say, this is available. There's a free of charge version, and there's also a paid for version. They've not paid me to use this. I'm just their biggest fan of it, and I just think it makes a huge difference in proving that you are a better estate agent. So, Rob, let us go to Bury. Okay, Rob, we are using, as I said, the platform, and we're going to be spending 10 or 15 minutes really deep diving and doing a Rightmove Plus analysis on steroids with Bury. Just so everyone is aware, the postcodes that we are looking at are BL0, 8 and 9. Okay. Have you ever been to Bury, Rob?
I haven't. Is it Bury or Bury?
Oh, there you go.
Like depends where you come from.
There you go. Well, I come from the East Midlands, so
it's Bury.
So
no, I haven't.
No, yeah. Right. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. So, what I'll do is I'll do the talking, and then Rob, if you see something, cut across me, or I'll ask you questions. So here we go. Right. Okay. So we are looking. This is residential sales, and we are looking at the 1st of January 2019 to the 11th of June 2024. We are starting with new instructions, and in those 5.5 years, we've had there have been 11,995 properties that have come onto the market in Bury, with an average asking price of 256,403. On this graph here, you can see the different levels of new instructions. And if we just click onto stock on market, we can actually see what the stock levels have been. Now, what we have to do is we won't wait. We have to look at whole months before we judge what the stock levels have been. So if we look in May, there were 885 properties for sale in Bury. The May 23, 814, May 22, 568, May 21, 647, 517 2020 May, and then 839 in May 29. So again, looking at standalone months, you can see that the stock levels have gone up. So again, if I was a Bury estate agent and you're finding it difficult, well, why is my property not selling? Well, the simple fact is that there are 50% more houses for sale today than there were 2 years ago. So again, a great bit of stock information. This graph here shows you the split of the stock. And again, if we looked at a particular month, so we just looked at May here, then it just shows you the levels there, and you could download the individual numbers. But let's get back to the sexy stuff, which is the market share. So let's have a look. So we're going to have a look. This looks like so we're going to start off with Miller Metcalfe. Okay. So here we go. So Miller Metcalfe appears to be the #1 estate agent in Bury, and their market share has been pretty stable around that 15 or 16% mark level. We'll just have a quick look. There we go. Hold on. And you can moving there, and then we've what looks like a slight drift down there, Rob, don't you think? So
yeah, it is. I wonder who's come to town.
So again, there's a slight drift down there. So again, I know that was that spike there. So there you go. That was April 2020. So that was the COVID. So we've got to slightly take that with a slight pinch of salt. But I would say there that the market share of Miller Metcalfe has started to drift slightly since 2023. We are not criticizing. We are just telling you what we see, ladies and gentlemen. So again, looks like Miller Metcalfe average price 290,000. So they're obviously dealing with the middle to middle upper market. Okay. Let's go and look at Pearson Ferrier. Is that how you pronounce it? And again, their market share seems to be around 1990 was around the mid-teens, and has now been hovering and probably around the 11 or 12% mark. So again, there's a slight drifting downwards there. Not very subtle. That's the thing I love about this bit of kit, is that aren't we, Rob? We're very guilty of looking at what happened a year ago.
Yeah.
And Rightmove Plus does only allow us to look at what happened a year ago. You can see why I said this is Rightmove Plus on steroids. In a graphical format like that, you can see where you're doing. And as I said, we are not criticizing, we are just analyzing. So again, they're 239, so they tend to be more middle market. Let's go and look at Christian Allen Sales. So it looks like I don't know when they started, but they started off there, and they've been hovering around that 7 or 8% mark and been pretty stable there, okay, with a 244 average asking. Entwistle Green. Well, that looks like a general growth. Again, I know we're obviously just having a bad June there, but again, we're only halfway through it. So again, I'm sure that will come back, Entwistle Green, but generally the trend upwards there. John Simon Estate Agents. Okay, guys, you seem to be on a drift downwards. Keenan's. Okay, they're going up. Cardwell's down. Harrison's down. Reed's Rains. There you go. Part of you guys in Tip Reed's Rains. Not your.
No, not us.
Oh, okay. That's the other lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Normie and Co. Wheel and Kitchen. Charles Louis, they going up. Your Move. Strike. Yopa. Clive Anthony. Relocate. Ryder Dutton, Wolford Wade, Belvoir. I'll go to number 25. I'll ignore Barrett because they're obviously new homes. Lifestyle and Express. Okay. Let's just have a quick look there at who the upper quartile agent is, or the upper quintile. We'll just have a look. So we're looking there for around 1,000. Let's just have a look. So we'll go for 500,000. And it looks like Millen Metcalf. There's not much difference there. So there isn't a huge upper quartile property market up there. But again, it's as I said, it's good old-fashioned Northwest. So we're probably not going to get that. That's more reserved for where all the wags live, south of Manchester. We're going to look at sales in a second, ladies and gentlemen, and exchanges. Let's go and have a look at this. So, was there anything there that you wanted to talk about, Rob, before we moved on? Sorry,
no, other than it just for the last 5 years, it doesn't look like anybody's grabbed hold of the market, does it?
No.
In a lot of places, you'd see an agent all of a sudden make a move, and either a new agent come in or somebody grab hold of an existing agent and start taking its market share forward. It just seems
everyone's in their lanes.
Yeah. No one's striking a difference.
Interesting. More of that later, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so this particular chart looks at from the 13th of June through to the 11th of June this year. And this one here, actually, I'll just move that to a year. I'm a bit particular about that. There we go. We'll get that changed. So everyone here is going to be looking particularly at new instruction market share, and sale agreed figures. And again, this is saying here that for every property that's come on the market in the last year, 66.52% of them in the town have gone sole subject to contract. But we don't get paid on sole subject to contracts. We get paid on exchanges. And this is where, and Rob, whilst I'm just spending a minute doing this, I'd like you just to have a look at the fall throughs and the price changes and report back. I'll ask you to report back in a second. I'll just do my bit now for a minute or so. So, ladies and gentlemen, a property leaving an estate agent's books is only leaving for two reasons. One, you get paid and you get exchange on it, and the second one, that it gets withdrawn. So therefore, this is ultimately how we can judge ourselves as estate agents. And I think it's really important to remember that in the last year, out of all the properties that have left estate agents' books in Bury, 57.82% of them you've been paid on, and 42.18% of them you haven't been paid on. And it's the ratio of the two. And the higher the exchange percentage, the greater the proficient and efficient and better estate agent that you are, basing it on the metric of, did you sell my house or not? So you can see here that Pearson Ferrier have exchanged contracts on 63.2%, whilst Miller Metcalf, at 53%, which means, and I'll just do a quick calculation there. I'll just get the calculation out. Here is this: 63.2 divided by but there is that if you put your house on the market with Pearson Ferrier, they had a 17.5% greater chance of selling your home. I don't work for Pearson Ferrier. I don't work for Miller Metcalf. In fact, I don't work for anyone in Bury. I'm just giving you the analysis of these statistics and applying them to Bury. And you can see why I'm a big fan of this bit of kit, that if you are a better estate agent, you can prove it by data like this. Now, the way you put this data across is very, very important. Very important. But if you have a look here, Entwistle Green at 67, Christian Allen at 71, that is fantastic. And in the top 10, you are the best. Keenan's at 61, John Simon at 60.7, Charles Louis Holmes at 52. And if you just keep going down, you will see that, there are some, decent numbers here, but there's also some disappointing numbers. And this is where, used proficiently and efficiently, this bit of kit can prove that you are a better estate agent. If you screen dump this and send it to a vendor, they won't know what they're looking at. Anyway, there you go. What's your thoughts on fall throughs and price changes?
I think my first comment would be is the best agent seems to get the price right in the first place.
We are going to be looking at that in a second. Which agent?
Okay, so
yeah. So
Okay, just based on price changes and highest exchange ratio, there's obviously a lot of there's a lot of stock on there that's too much money that is being reduced. Huge amount of reductions when you look at that. So, reducing 50-60% of your stock.
So Miller Metcalf reduced 2/3 of their stock.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I mean, that is a huge amount of work and effort, especially if it then walks out the door and 46% goes somewhere else and they sell it. So yeah, I think if I was an estate agent looking at that, I'd be looking at some of the businesses and saying, who can I target and how can I go for the low hanging fruit that's ready to be, ready to switch agents and I'll sell it. That's what that graph would tell me.
Indeed. So we're now going to go and look at how close do Pearson Ferrier and all the other agents get to their asking price. So we're going to hope, we don't know this yet. We haven't looked. Let's have a look. Well, there you go. There is our answer, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just remind ourselves here. Pearson Ferrier have an exchange ratio of 63.2%. Right. This is brilliant. Okay. Didn't know this was going to happen. Here we go. Pearson Ferrier are put on 253 properties. Let me explain how this works, because this is quite a complicated set of numbers, and it just requires explanation to prove what it means. Okay. 20EA, with their insights platform, have looked at those 253 properties, and they've already, before they put the house on the market, done an automated valuation model, like a Valpal figure. And they would have done the same on all of Miller Carters and Entwistle Greens, everyone in that list. And then they would actually look at how much did you put the property on the market for compared to what we think it's worth. Now, AVMs do have a bad name for themselves. You know, everyone slags them off. But if you're using the same AVM model on all the same Berry properties, you are comparing apples with apples. And the simple fact is this: Pearson Ferrier overvalued by 0.37%. The average is 1.33. I mean, there are some here that are absolutely massive numbers. But Miller Metcalf at 2.08. Let's just remind ourselves, their withdrawal rate is 46 and their exchange rate is 53. There's a correlation there, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a correlation there. So this shows you what 20EA think it should be worth and what you put it on the market for. And you can see here that it looks like the other agents seem to be having some slight overvaluing. But it's not whether you, like we said before in the show, Rob, it doesn't matter whether you overvalue it, it's whether you actually work the stock. So we now move on to the second paragraph, the second column here, which is price achieved. And what did you achieve from your original asking price? And in the last 12 months, Pearson Ferrier have achieved on average 1.41% less than their original asking price, whilst other agents, as you can see in the charts here, have produced different sets of numbers. Now, the problem with percentages is that agents even have trouble with it, let alone homeowners. So therefore, we convert everything into pound notes. So therefore, if the average estate agent in Bury put their house on the market for £300,000, what would they achieve for it? And you can see here, down here on this particular chart here, the different numbers that the different agents would achieve for it. So if you were an estate agent and you wanted to achieve absolute top dollar, then there are agents in that have seemed to have got a higher price for the properties. So therefore, you could use that information and say, okay, your chances of selling with, you might not even show them this graph, your chances of selling might not be as great, but you know, Entwistle Green have got an exchange ratio of 67 and a decent pound note figure as well at 304. The average is 296. So again, if I was Pearson Ferrier, I might be saying, I get, you know, you pick the data which matches the story you want to tell. And the way you craft these messages is really, really important. Is there anything else on here that you want to talk about, Rob, before we go and look at
no, I think you've covered what they're doing and where to look and how to affect it.
Good stuff. Right then. So now we're going to have a look at this particular chart, which shows you how different estate agents are quickly selling their houses. So again, let's just remind ourselves, the biggest estate agent was Pearson Ferrier. Let's see how quickly they are selling houses. So they are taking on average 57 days to get a property sold, and then taking 105 days, sold up to contract to completion, 105 days. Okay, let's go and see who. There was another agent, Entwistle Green, had taken slightly longer to sell, 65 days, and their sale agreed to completion is 113. So if you look, this is the average for Bury itself. On average, 72 days to get a property from new instruction to sale agreed, and 115 days from sale agreed to completion. Let's just have a quick look at what that was last year. So that's good. So it's gone from, well, it's not good on the, so 47 days to 72 days. So again, there's a great stat for you, ladies and gentlemen. Last year, it took 47 days to sell a house. That's June 22 to June 23 versus 72 days, June 23 to June 24. Okay. And you can see the graphs here, and it just shows you the sort of numbers that we're talking about. Anything on this before we go and look at lettings?
Other than sometimes rather than picking individual agents, if you're an agent with this kit, it's how do you compare to the norm, if that makes sense? Indeed. And comparing to the norm and being better than the norm and demonstrating that is possibly quite something the other vendors will understand more, rather than picking other people.
Indeed. Well, just before we go and look at the lettings piece, I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes just talking about how I could help one estate agent in Bury get more listings and higher fees. Hi, it's Chris here, and this is a personal message to all of the Bury estate and letting agents watching this. And I'd like 2 or 3 minutes of your time to explain how I can help you get more listings and higher fees, both in sales and lettings. If this is not of interest to you, please just fast forward a couple of minutes and you'll see us back on the graphs. But those that you are wanting more listings and higher fees, then please do listen up. I don't know if you're aware, but a survey of 10,000 vendors last year by the Property Academy said that 30,600 of those 10,000 vendors, 36%, said they chose their estate and letting agent based on their local property market knowledge. Now, I've looked at most of your social media platforms, and all you seem to be doing is putting listing, which is not proving that you are the local guru of the property market. So therefore, a service that I can only do for one agent in Bury, and that could be you, it might not be you, is create you great content which is of interest to Bury homeowners. So I produce content like this, where we can put a picture of you here with £1 per square foot, and we can put one of these on a month. We could do stuff like this, where we put a map of your town and just showing you where the different areas of the town are, and with a graphic with a heat map. We could also do, again, because we're a big believer in local, making you the local go-to person. You can put your value, or you here, how long it takes you to sell a house. We can also do how much the average price of a property sells for. And again, this could be you with your logo, with a price and everything else here. We do other maps like this, which again would be a map of Bury, just showing the various different bits of property data to make you look awesome. We can also do more national stuff and regional stuff, again, to make you look really awesome. And all these come with write-ups that you can cut and paste and personalize to Bury in a matter of seconds. I'll just show you some others here as well. So just how long does it take to sell a house, and do bedrooms affect saleability? And these come with write-ups. Again, you can personalize to your town in a matter of seconds. And those are the services that I can provide as an agent. For you as an agent, I can provide you 3 pieces of content a week, 2 on Bury and 1 on the UK, which is personalized to you and your agency to make you look awesome. So if you're looking at your social media saying, I need to attract more homeowners, I can produce you the content that make you look awesome. I have a proven track record of over 10 years, and I work for in excess of 120 agents. Myself and my team are here to help and guide you and support you. So not only will we create the content, I can be a guide and a coach to guide and support you on your journey, both in the marketing of your business, but also just generally you and your team. So if that sounds of interest, my telephone number is 07950 147 572. I can only work for one agent in a town. And just again, totally above board, my costs are £350 plus VAT per month, and you can walk away at any time with 2 weeks' notice. So there's no long time periods. I appreciate some of you might not be able to afford that, or it might not be of interest to you. So thank you for your attention. Let's get back to the show now. Okay, we're back now, and we're now looking at the lettings piece. Not so much data on this, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, but we can pick some numbers from this and give a flavour of what's happening. So Pearson Ferrier, number one agent, let's just have a look at what they're doing. So this is the number of new instructions. Now, do remember, ladies and gentlemen, that this isn't new stock. Most of this is going to be recycled stuff. But again, we're looking at the trend and the data of where it's going. And you can see here, and again, if less people are moving home, then then your new instructions are going to be lower as well. But so we're looking at the trends here. And again, I wouldn't be too concerned myself there, Pearson Ferrier, in terms of that trend. Generally, most agents are on a slight downward trend because of these people. Open rent had 5% of the market in 2019, and now, as I said, we're around that 20% mark. You know, if you actually look at the stats, ladies and gentlemen, everyone says I'm losing stock, but if you actually look at the cold, hard facts of the capital gains tax receipts and the stamp duty levels, there are more landlords buying buy-to-let properties than there are selling. I don't know if you knew that, Rob, but they're not there.
Okay. No, it's not some stats that we've looked at, but we have definitely seen less exiting without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. So if you look at, you can measure the exit numbers by stamp duty, by capital gains, and you can measure the people who are buying through the stamp duty stats, because I'm a property statistician by profession. And look at this: 20% of the rental market, is going through open rent. So, and some agents say, well, some agents put it on there because they're not the big agents, not the big numbers. Okay, so they are taking. So what are you? Pardon me. What are you doing to prove your worth? What are you doing to attract? Most letting agents, all they do is their necks ring them up when there's a problem. Are you sitting down? I know you're a big fan of this, Rob. Are you sitting down with your landlords? Are you talking about portfolio management? Are you saying, right, you've got these 5 properties here. What's your plan in the next 10 years? Are you going to be buying any more? Help them and guide them. Otherwise, all you're doing is collecting rent and taking 10% for basically bugger all. Am I speaking out of turn?
No, I think you're right. I think that concierge service to a landlord is key at the moment, and the people that do it the best and the people that do it the most will probably grow the portfolios.
Christian Allen, okay. Entwistle Green, Belvoir, John Simon, Harrison's, McGowan's, Dwellings, Normie & Co, Northwood, Cody Lucas, Lifestyle, Reed Rains, Martin & Co, JH, we'll go down to number 20, Miller Metcalf, Cardwell's, and Your Move. Okay, right. That's the end of the Berry section. Rob, your final words on anything.
Lots of positive stats, lots of good things out there. The better estate agent you are, the more you're all over being price sensitive on instruction, on viewing feedback, on offers. The better you are, the better estate agent you are, and the more effort you put in, the more work you put into it, the better your market share and your return will be. The stats have shown that for donkey's years. When we're in this type of marketplace, you got to go out and prove your worth, but people will pay for it, and the market's out there for you to do it.
Indeed. I mean, I posted this morning, and I'll just pull up the stats now, and it's got an awful lot of feedback on this, but to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, let me just pull that, hold on. In 2006, the average estate agent earned £2,800 per property. And today, the average estate agent earns £3,020 per property. The issue is that that was in 2006 money. It's so important to remember, and I'll just pull up the stats here, is that 2,800, if it was in today's money, if we were earning, it would be £4,800. And that really comes down to, and just to give you an idea, the average Rightmove bill in that same time, I'll just pull up the stats now, has gone from, here we go, £183 per month to £1,431. Costs have gone up, staff has gone up. But this fundamental thing is that even though house prices have gone up, the average fee's gone from 1.6 to 1%, ladies and gentlemen. And something needs to change. And all I know is this: you can blame Rightmove, you can blame Purple Bricks. If you actually look at the cold hard stats, they have nothing to do with it. The only difference is our own mindsets and the way we guide and support our team, because we are worth what we, we are worth what we're trying. Our estate agency fees reflect our self-worth, and our job is to deliver, as Rob says, unmatched value. Level up, guide yourself, guide your team. When it scares me. I know you're okay because you're part of a big firm, but it scares me that there are only 9 estate agency trainers for 14,500 independent estate agents. And when was the last time you guide and support? I'm not a trainer. I don't do that, Rob. I know you're a big fan of you train and guide a lot of your franchisees, and you've got a fantastic department in that. But final thoughts, Rob, is why don't we as an industry to train and develop ourselves and our team to change our mindset, to upskill our skills, to be better agents so we can earn what we're really worth?
Well, one of the reasons is whether we believe in it or not. And the second other reason is whether people perceive they've got time for it or not. So we just did a bit of an exercise. I'm a big Stephen Covey believer. And if you look at his 4 quadrants of time management, no one's in quadrant 2 enough. No one's spending enough time planning, training, coaching, recruiting the right people. And it saves you so much time and effort because you're not in that reactive quadrant all your life. And if the more you stay in that reactive quadrant of just keeping your head above water, stopping yourself from drowning, the more you're in that sector, the less likely that you'll train and you coach and you'll develop, and you'll stay there and burn out and your staff will leave. We've got to put ourselves in a position where we have reflective time. And I know that's easier said than done when you're business owners and you're estate agents and you're busy, but in the long term, it will make a difference. It will stop that reactive estate agency fighting for anything they can get to somebody who's proactive and has good staff retention, which gives you time
to do more of that. Rob, thank you for your time today, brother. You've been absolutely exceptional. But more importantly, thank you for watching it. We'll see you next week for week 24 with another special guest. So let's say goodbye, Rob, and we'll see you. Cheers.
See you again. Bye.